Chosen one, listen carefully for a moment. What you felt at 3 a.m. was not random. It was not simply insomnia, anxiety, or a restless night. Something deeper was happening in the unseen realm of your spirit. That heavy feeling pressing on your chest, the strange alertness that woke you up out of sleep, the quiet sense that something was wrong even though nothing around you had changed. Those were signals. Your spirit was resisting a soul tie. Many people dismiss these moments as stress or imagination, but you knew it was different. You could feel it. The atmosphere felt thick. Your thoughts were sharper than usual. Your intuition was louder than normal. And even though you tried to go back to sleep, something inside you refused to settle down. That was not coincidence. There are moments in life when your spirit becomes aware of something your mind has not fully understood yet. Your inner being recognizes a connection, an influence, or a bond that is no longer healthy for your growth. When this happens, your spirit begins to push back against it. And that resistance is what you felt. You see, not every connection in life is neutral. Some relationships form what spiritual teachers call a soul tie. A soul tie is a deep, energetic bond created through emotional attachment, shared pain, intense relationships, or long periods of influence between two people. At first, these connections can feel meaningful, powerful, even necessary. But over time, some of them begin to drain your energy instead of strengthening it. The difficulty is that soul ties do not always break quietly. When your spirit begins to outgrow a connection that once defined you, tension forms. Part of you still remembers the familiarity of the bond, but another part of you recognizes that staying tied to it will prevent you from stepping into the life you are meant to live. That inner tension often shows up at night, especially around 3 a.m.
There is a reason many spiritually sensitive people wake during that hour. The world is quiet. The distractions are gone. Your mind is not busy protecting itself with daily routines. And in that silence, your deeper awareness rises to the surface. This is when your spirit begins processing what your waking mind has avoided. Chosen one, the heaviness you felt was not weakness. It was awakening. Something inside you realized that a bond in your life was still pulling on your energy. Maybe it is a past relationship you thought you had already moved on from. Maybe it is someone who still occupies space in your thoughts, even though they are no longer part of your daily life. Maybe it is an emotional memory that keeps resurfacing when you try to focus on your future. Whatever the source is, your spirit recognized it before your mind did, and your spirit refused to stay silent. When a soul tie begins to loosen, the first thing that appears is resistance. Old emotions may rise up again. Memories you thought were buried might suddenly replay in your mind. You may feel a strange combination of sadness, anger, nostalgia, and clarity all at once. This is not regression. This is release. Your spirit is identifying the connection that needs to be broken so your energy can return fully to you. Many people spend years unknowingly carrying pieces of other people's influence inside their emotional world. They think the exhaustion they feel is normal. They believe the confusion they experience about their identity is just part of life. But what is actually happening is that their spirit is still entangled in a bond that no longer belongs in their present. You, however, are beginning to see it. The fact that you woke up at 3 a.m. feeling that heaviness was not an accident. It was a signal that your awareness has reached a new level. Your spirit was saying, this connection no longer has permission to control my energy. And that realization is powerful, because once your spirit recognizes a soul tie, the process of freedom begins. At first, the change can feel uncomfortable. Breaking energetic attachments is not the same as forgetting someone. It does not erase memories or deny that the relationship existed. What it does is reclaim the authority over your emotional and spiritual space. You stop allowing someone else's presence to influence your inner peace. That shift changes everything. Many chosen individuals go through this exact moment before a major transformation in their life. Before new opportunities appear, before clarity about purpose arrives, before peace finally replaces years of emotional confusion, there is often a separation from old ties. It is like removing anchors before a ship can finally move forward. If you tried to step into your next season while still connected to every emotional bond from your past, the weight would hold you in place.
Your spirit understands this, even if your mind is still catching up. That is why the resistance showed up at night. Your spirit was doing the work of detaching from something that had lingered for too long. Think about the last few weeks. Have you noticed changes in how you feel about certain people or situations? Perhaps conversations that once felt important now feel draining. Maybe you find yourself less interested in explaining yourself to others. Perhaps you are becoming more protective of your time and energy. These are not random personality shifts. They are signs that your spirit is reclaiming its boundaries. And boundaries are essential for growth. For a long time, you may have believed that loyalty meant holding on to every relationship, no matter how much it cost you. But true growth requires discernment. Not everyone who walked with you in one season is meant to walk with you forever. Some people were teachers, some were mirrors, some were tests, and some were simply temporary connections meant to show you who you are becoming. When your spirit recognizes that a soul tie has served its purpose, it begins the process of release. That release does not always happen instantly. It can unfold over days, weeks, or months as layers of emotional attachment gradually dissolve. But the moment you felt at 3 a.m. was the turning point. It was the moment your spirit stopped tolerating the weight. Chosen one, understand this clearly. The heaviness you felt was not a sign that something was wrong with you. It was proof that your inner awareness is growing stronger. You are becoming more sensitive to what aligns with your true path and what does not. And that sensitivity is a gift. Many people remain entangled in unhealthy soul ties for years because they ignore the signals their spirit sends them. They stay connected to dynamics that drain their energy because familiarity feels safer than change. But you are different. Your spirit refused to stay quiet. That moment of awakening at 3 a.m. was the beginning of your separation from a bond that no longer belongs in your life. As this process continues, you may notice subtle changes. Certain memories will lose their emotional charge. Situations that once triggered you may suddenly feel distant. Conversations about the past may no longer carry the same weight. This is how healing unfolds. It does not always arrive with dramatic announcements. Sometimes it comes quietly, through small shifts in perception that gradually reshape your entire inner world. And as those shifts happen, something else begins to emerge. Clarity. When the energy that was tied up in old attachments returns to you, your mind becomes clearer. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your ability to recognize opportunities and healthy connections improves. You begin to see life from a perspective that was impossible while you were still entangled. This is why releasing soul ties is not about loss. It is about restoration. You are reclaiming parts of yourself that were scattered across experiences that have already finished their purpose. The heaviness you felt at 3 a.m. was the final resistance of that old bond. Your spirit recognized that the time had come to let it go, and now the space that bond once occupied is opening. Into that space will come new clarity, new relationships, and a stronger sense of who you truly are becoming. So if you wake up again during those quiet hours and feel the same awareness rising within you, do not fear it. Do not try to silence it. Listen to it. Your spirit knows the direction of your freedom, and each time you acknowledge that inner guidance, the remaining threads of that old soul tie grow weaker. You are not losing anything of value. You are gaining yourself back, and
And that is the beginning of a completely new chapter in your life.
Chosen one, now that the first layer of awareness has opened, something else begins to happen inside you. The moment a soul tie begins to loosen, your spirit does not immediately relax. Instead, it becomes more alert. It starts examining every emotional pathway that once connected you to that person, that memory, or that situation. This is why, after that night at 3 a.m., you may have felt strange waves of emotion during the following days. At certain moments, you felt calm and clear, almost relieved. Then, unexpectedly, a memory surfaced. A conversation replayed in your mind. A familiar feeling tried to pull your attention backward. That does not mean the bond is still strong. It means your spirit is finishing the work of untangling it. Imagine for a moment that a knot has been tied for years inside your emotional world. When the process of release begins, the knot does not vanish instantly. The threads must loosen one by one. Some threads represent memories. Others represent expectations that were never fulfilled. Some represent the version of yourself that existed when that connection first formed. When a soul tie breaks, you are not only releasing the other person, you are also releasing the past version of yourself that existed within that bond. That is why the process can feel intense. Your spirit is reorganizing your inner world. For a long time, part of your identity may have been connected to that relationship or emotional tie. Maybe you were the one who tried to fix everything. Maybe you were the one who stayed loyal, even when things became difficult. Maybe you carried emotional responsibilities that were never meant to be yours. Those roles slowly became part of how you understood yourself. But now, something new is emerging. Your spirit is stepping out of those roles, and when that happens, there is often a period of silence where you begin asking deeper questions. Who am I without this connection? What direction does my life take now that this emotional weight is leaving? What kind of relationships truly belong in my future? These questions are not signs of confusion. They are signs of transformation. When old ties dissolve, space opens for a new level of self-awareness. You begin to recognize patterns that you previously ignored. You see how certain dynamics repeated themselves across different relationships. You notice how your empathy, loyalty, and patience sometimes kept you connected to people who are not growing at the same pace as you. And suddenly, something becomes clear. You are not meant to stay there forever. Chosen one. Many people misunderstand the purpose of certain relationships in their life. They believe every connection must last indefinitely. But in reality, some bonds exist only to teach you something essential about your strength, your boundaries, and your value. Once the lesson is complete, the bond naturally weakens. The difficulty is that your heart often holds on longer than your spirit wants to. Your heart remembers the good moments, the shared laughter, the promises that once felt real. It wants to believe that the connection can return to what it used to be. But your spirit sees the bigger picture. It understands that growth sometimes requires separation. This inner disagreement between heart and spirit creates the heaviness you felt. Your spirit was trying to move forward, while part of your emotional memory was still holding the past. But now the balance is shifting. Each time you recognize the pattern, each time you choose peace instead of revisiting old wounds, the remaining energy of that soul tie dissolves. You may notice another change as this happens. Your attention begins turning toward your own life again. Instead of wondering what someone else is thinking or doing, your focus returns to your goals, your healing, and your future. Your energy stops leaking into questions that no longer serve you. Your mind begins exploring possibilities instead of replaying old conversations. This is one of the most powerful signs that the soul tie is breaking. Your energy is returning home. For a long time, pieces of your emotional strength were invested in maintaining that connection. You spent hours thinking about it, analyzing it, trying to understand it. You carried the emotional weight
even when the other person had already moved on or stopped contributing to the relationship. But now your spirit has decided that those pieces belong to you again. And as they return, something remarkable happens. Your sense of personal power increases. You begin to feel calmer in situations that once triggered anxiety. You start recognizing when someone is trying to manipulate your empathy or guilt. You notice that you are no longer willing to sacrifice your peace just to keep a connection alive. This is not coldness. This is clarity. Healthy relationships do not require you to abandon your inner balance. They do not demand constant emotional labor from only one side. When you begin valuing your energy, the type of connections you attract naturally changes. Some people may drift away during this time, not because you rejected them, but because your energy no longer feeds the patterns that kept the connection alive before. When your boundaries become stronger, people who benefited from your old openness sometimes feel uncomfortable. Do not interpret that as failure. It is simply alignment taking place. Every time you release an unhealthy soul tie, you create space for connections that are balanced, respectful, and supportive. The universe responds to the energy you carry. When your spirit becomes clearer, it attracts people who resonate with that clarity. But before those new connections appear, there is often a quiet phase. A phase where you stand between who you were and who you are becoming. This phase can feel lonely at times. You may notice that your social world is changing. Certain conversations no longer interest you. Some environments feel heavier than they used to. You may even spend more time alone than before. Do not misunderstand this stage. It is not isolation. It is recalibration. Your spirit is adjusting to its new level of awareness. The noise of old influences is fading, and your inner voice is becoming stronger. During this time, many chosen individuals discover parts of themselves that were hidden beneath years of emotional entanglement. You may find yourself drawn to new ideas, new creative interests, or new goals that previously seemed impossible. Your imagination becomes more active. Your vision for the future becomes clearer. This is the energy that was previously tied up in that soul tie, returning to you. What once drained you is now fueling your growth. Think back to the heaviness you felt at 3 a.m. At that moment, your spirit was pushing against the final resistance of that bond. It was declaring that your life cannot move forward while carrying attachments that belong to the past. That declaration has power, and the more you honor it, the stronger your freedom becomes. So if you find yourself reflecting on that connection again, do not judge yourself. Healing does not require pretending that the relationship never mattered. It simply means recognizing that its role in your life has ended. You can appreciate what it taught you without allowing it to define your future. Chosen one, the awakening that began that night was not only about releasing a soul tie, it was about remembering your own worth. For too long, you may have measured your value based on how much you were willing to give, how much you could endure, or how loyal you remained, even when others failed to meet you halfway. But your value was never meant to depend on how much you sacrifice yourself. Your value exists because of who you are. When your spirit realized this truth, the old bond could no longer hold you. And now, as the last threads of that connection dissolve, a new kind of peace begins to settle in your life. It is not the temporary calm that comes from avoiding problems. It is the deeper peace that comes from alignment. You are no longer fighting yourself. Your heart and spirit are moving in the same direction. The heaviness that once woke you at 3 a.m. will gradually transform into something different. Instead of pressure, you may begin to feel moments of quiet clarity during those late hours. Ideas may come to you. Insights about your path may appear. Your intuition may guide you toward choices that feel lighter and more authentic. That is the signal that the release is complete. The energy that once tied you to the past has become fuel for your future. And from this point forward, the connections you form will not be built on emotional dependency or unfinished wounds. They will be built on awareness, mutual growth, and respect for the person you have become. Chosen one, your spirit resisted that soul tie because it knows the life waiting for you is too meaningful to be weighed down by old attachments. And now that the resistance has begun, nothing can reverse the direction of your freedom. Chosen one, there is something else you must understand about that moment when you woke up at 3 a.m. When your spirit begins breaking a soul tie, the process does not only happen inside your emotions, it also changes the way your energy interacts with the world around you. This is why, after that night, you may have started noticing subtle shifts in your environment. Conversations felt different. Certain people reacted to you in ways that seemed unusual. Some individuals who once had easy access to your attention suddenly felt distant. Others may have reached out unexpectedly, almost as if something invisible had changed in the atmosphere around you. That is not imagination. When a soul tie weakens, the energetic connection between you and that person begins to dissolve. And because that connection once influenced your decisions, your mood, and your reactions, the people around you can sense that the pattern has changed. You are no longer responding in the same way. Think about it carefully. In the past, that connection may have shaped how you spent your time, how you thought about yourself, or even how you approached new opportunities. When a soul tie is active, it can quietly direct many small choices in your life without you realizing it. But once your spirit begins reclaiming its authority, those invisible influences lose their power. Suddenly, you start making decisions from a place that is entirely your own. You may choose peace instead of explanation. You may walk away from conversations that once pulled you into emotional circles. You may stop trying to prove your worth to people who never truly saw it. And this new behavior can feel unfamiliar at first, because for a long time, you were used to carrying emotional responsibilities that did not belong to you. Chosen one, your spirit was never meant to live in constant emotional negotiation. You were never meant to measure your worth based on how much you could endure or how many times you could forgive the same pattern. Your spirit was designed to grow, to expand, and to move toward environments that nurture your purpose. The moment that heaviness woke you at 3 a.m. was the signal that your spirit had reached a boundary that said, enough. Enough carrying the weight of a connection that no longer supports your growth. Enough replaying conversations that keep you tied to the past. Enough allowing someone else's emotional chaos to occupy your inner world. That realization is not anger. It is clarity. And clarity is one of the most powerful forms of healing. Once clarity enters your spirit, the illusions that kept the soul tie alive begin to fade. You start seeing the relationship exactly as it was, not as your memory tried to preserve it. You recognize the moments when your intuition warned you, but you chose patience instead. You remember the times when you ignored your own needs to keep the connection stable. This awareness is not meant to create regret. It is meant to create understanding. Every experience you went through built the awareness you carry today. Without those lessons, you might still be repeating the same emotional patterns without realizing it. But now, you see them clearly. And once something is seen clearly, it cannot control you the same way again. Chosen one, many people live their entire lives inside emotional loops created by unresolved soul ties. They keep returning to the same type of relationship, the same emotional dynamic, the same cycle of hope and disappointment. Each time they promise themselves things will be different, but the underlying tie continues pulling them back. You are stepping out of that cycle. Your spirit recognized the pattern and decided it was time to end it. That decision creates a powerful shift in your life path. Because when a soul tie breaks, your future possibilities expand. The energy that once circled around the past becomes available for new directions. Opportunities that previously passed unnoticed suddenly stand out. Your mind begins imagining a life that feels lighter, clearer, and more aligned with who you truly are. This is the beginning of a new emotional landscape, and while it may still feel unfamiliar, it carries a deep sense of freedom. You may notice that your thoughts are becoming quieter. The mental noise that once filled your mind with questions about that connection begins to fade. Instead of wondering why things happened the way they did, you simply accept that the chapter has finished. Acceptance is a powerful stage of release. It does not mean the experience had no meaning. It means the meaning has already been received, and there is no longer a need to revisit the same emotional ground. Chosen one, you must also understand that breaking a soul tie does not require confrontation or explanation. Many people believe they must return to the person, say certain words, or resolve every unanswered question before they can truly move on. But the real release happens within you. The moment your spirit decides that the connection no longer has authority over your peace, the bond begins dissolving, regardless of external circumstances. Your freedom does not depend on someone else understanding your decision. It depends on your willingness to honor your inner clarity. And that clarity is growing stronger every day. You may have already noticed it in small ways. Situations that once triggered emotional reactions now pass without disturbing your calm. Messages that might have pulled you back into old conversations no longer feel urgent. Your attention naturally shifts toward things that inspire growth rather than emotional entanglement. These are signs that your spirit is stabilizing in its new freedom. The heaviness that woke you at 3 a.m. was the moment the shift began. It was the moment your inner awareness stood up and said that your future cannot be built while carrying the emotional weight of the past. That decision created a ripple through every layer of your life. As time moves forward, the space that soul tie once occupied will fill with something far more valuable: self-respect, clarity, and peace. These qualities form the foundation for the next stage of your journey. Because when your spirit becomes free from old attachments, it begins guiding you toward connections that are balanced rather than draining. Instead of relationships built on emotional rescue, you attract relationships built on mutual understanding. Instead of bonds created through shared wounds, you begin forming connections based on shared growth. This shift may take time to fully reveal itself, but the process has already begun. Chosen one, that moment at 3 a.m. was not simply about letting go of a past connection. It was about reclaiming your direction. Your spirit was reminding you that your life is too important to remain anchored to what is already ended. There are experiences waiting for you that require your full energy and presence. There are opportunities ahead that would have been impossible while you were still carrying that emotional weight. Now, as the last traces of that soul tie continue dissolving, you are stepping into a new level of awareness. One where your peace is protected. One where your energy belongs to you. And one where the relationships you build from this point forward will reflect the strength, wisdom, and clarity your spirit has gained through this journey. Chosen one, there is one more layer to this experience that many people overlook. When a soul tie begins to break, it does not only change how you feel about the past, it also changes how you see yourself. For a long time, part of your identity may have been shaped by that connection. Perhaps you saw yourself as the person who always tried to make things work, the one who stayed patient longer than most people would, the one who kept hoping that if you just understood the other person better, everything would eventually become clear. But when your spirit begins releasing that bond, those roles start to dissolve, and suddenly a new question appears inside you. If I am no longer the person defined by that relationship, then who am I now? At first, this question can feel uncomfortable. It may even create moments of uncertainty. But this is not confusion. It is transformation. When old emotional structures collapse, your authentic self has room to emerge. You begin noticing qualities in yourself that were always there but were hidden beneath the weight of that connection. Your independence becomes clearer. Your intuition becomes sharper. Your sense of direction becomes stronger. You realize that many of the things you once tolerated were never aligned with your true nature. And that realization changes how you walk through the world. Chosen one. Growth often requires a period of emotional reorganization. During this time, you may feel both relief and reflection. There will be moments when you appreciate how far you have come, and moments when you quietly process everything you learned from that chapter of your life. Allow that reflection to happen without judgment. Every relationship you experienced carried a lesson that contributed to your awareness today. Some taught you what love should look like. Others taught you what love should never demand from you again. Both lessons are valuable. But now your focus must move forward, because the version of you that existed when that soul tie first formed is no longer the person you are becoming. You have grown stronger. You have developed deeper emotional insight. You have learned how to listen to your intuition instead of ignoring it. And most importantly, you have learned the difference between connection and attachment. True connection supports your peace. It allows both people to grow while maintaining their individuality. It does not require one person to carry the emotional balance for both. Attachment, on the other hand, often disguises itself as loyalty or devotion while quietly draining your energy. It keeps you tied to situations that have already finished their purpose. Your spirit recognized this difference. That is why it woke you. That is why it refused to stay silent during those quiet hours of the night. It was guiding you toward freedom. Now, as this transformation continues, you may notice something else happening within you. A deeper sense of calm may begin replacing the emotional intensity that once surrounded that connection. You may think about the past without feeling pulled back into it. This is a sign that the release is stabilizing. Your spirit is no longer fighting the bond.